like to talk to you about Lou Gehrig's disease, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or as everyone knows it as ALS. ALS was named after a Major League Baseball player named Lou Gehrig. This disorder, he was diagnosed in 1939, where it ended his career. ALS is a disorder that affects the nerves and the muscles. It's a neurodegenerative disorder that affects the nerve cells in the brain and the spinal cord. There are 3 forms of ALS: sporadic, familial, and Guanine. Sporadic is the most common form of ALS, and it makes up the majority of the cases, about 90 to 95%. Familial occurs when there's more than one case in a family lineage, and it makes up about 5 to 10% of all the cases. And Guanine was an extremely high rare case where ALS was observed in Guam and in the Trust Territories in the 1950s. ALS occurs between the ages of 40 and 70. It is 20% more common in men than in women. However, there have been some cases and studies that show that the patients were in their 20s and 30s as well. According to the ALS CARES database, 63% of the patients were males and 93% of them were Caucasian. Symptoms for ALS progresses different from person to person. Although the survival time for ALS is 3 to 5 years, some people may live 5, 10, or more years, including but not limited to progressive painless muscle weakness, cramps and tingling, slurred speech, and extensive, how do you say it? I forgot my word, y'all, sorry. Uncontrollable periods of laughing and crying. There's no one particular test that ultimately diagnoses the ALS. They're including an electric diagnostic test, blood and urine tests, thyroid and parathyroid tests, spinal taps, MRIs, X-rays, and all of these tests are ran to eliminate any other disorder that may mimic ALS. There can be significant costs when it comes to getting diagnoses, treatments, medical care, and home health care living if you need it later on in the disease. The first treatment is Riluzole. It was approved by the FDA in late 1995, and it has shown to slow down the progress of ALS to allow people more time to live in their higher functioning states. It is an anti-seizure and neuroprotective agent. Depending on the number of diagnostic procedures that you get and the length of treatment, there's just a few examples of what genetic testing may cost. Genetic testing for all known familial ALS is an estimated of $6,000. To get one gene tested costs anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, and if there is a familial mutation that is already known, it costs $400 to get that gene tested. ALS occurs all around the world with no racial, ethnic, or socioeconomic discrimination. It can happen to anyone and anyone can be affected. Again, ALS has 3 forms: the sporadic, the familial, and the Guanine, and it occurs between the ages of 40 and 70, and is 20% more likely in men than in women. Like any diagnosis or disorder, it can be overwhelming, but ALS has a great association that spends millions of dollars on research and its patients. Right before our eyes, a tradition was established. The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge started in the summer of 2014, and 17 million people uploaded videos to Facebook. And it was watched by 440 million people, a total of 10 billion times. No one is ever alone and should ever be alone when support is needed the most. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Very well. Oh, that's scary. Just
say,
give
them a
yeah.
major.
I know. How do you keep all of that in your head?
I tripped up. I did good on the way here, but I was like,
you did good.
That's awesome.
Are there any questions? Because she still has 30 seconds to go.
Oh.
Yes.
Any questions?
One thing I did forget to mention is that ALS only affects the motor neurons, so your senses are not affected. Your smell, taste, touch, hearing, none of that is affected. That's one
And
thing.
what age group is that? Most
Yeah,
people?
40 to 70.
40 to 70.
But it can happen in the 20s and 30s.
Okay.
So once you pass 70, you say.
Well, since you're 70, right?
Look,
You trying to X yourself out?
like son.
Yeah, right?
Say, okay, we out.
As long as it's been a safe zone. All right, that's it.